This is my second favorite anime character ever.
Aw, she's cute. What's she from?
A certain scientific railgun.
Ooh, what's it about?
Here's the watch order for the people who just want the answer and don't care about the X-page nerd essay as to why. Okay, now that I've lost half my audience... Okay, so with the advent of the third season of Index and Railgun, I've seen an uptick in the number of people asking what order they should watch the series in. Accordingly, I've seen an uptick in the number of people giving true chronological order as a response, or saying to skip Index entirely on account of it not being as good as Railgun. Now, I understand the impulse to watch things in chronological order, and although great on a rewatch, this is not recommended for somebody who is brand new to the series. I also understand it's difficult to tell someone to watch Index when Railgun is just that much better handled as an adaptation, but I'm pretty sure this desire comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of the source material. A lot of people tend to think of the Index series like this. Two series running in parallel to each other, when in reality, it's like this. Index, and then half a dozen different spin-offs, only Railgun of which is adapted. That's starting to change with Accelerator, but for the most part, nothing but those two has been adapted so far. A certain magical Index is the mainline series, and Toma is the primary protagonist of that series, so we see the world through and with him. As he learns more about the setting and its inhabitants, so do we. Eventually he encounters different characters who become relevant or interesting enough to where they get their own side stories. Then characters in those get their own side stories. Because of this, there are some major events which occur in Index which fundamentally change the story, characters, and setting, which other spin-offs expect you to have already seen or know about. True chronological order or skipping Index entirely already spoils things relatively speaking, but it definitely will later down the line. For example, if they ever adapt Astral Buddy, it spoils the major twist of Index New Testament Volume 11, the equivalent of about Season 5 or 6 if they ever get there. But Index New Testament Volume 11 came out 10 years before Astral Buddy, so you would want to watch it after this theoretical Index 6. It's kinda like telling someone to start with Rogue One under the pretense that that's the chronological order. There are certain events you are expected to already know about before they even start, and the place you learn about those events is a certain magical index, the mainline series. Do you need an example? Okay, you need an example. Say you're starting Railgun T. The show starts out with Kuroko in the hospital. Now, if you've seen Index, your reaction is probably, oh, that makes sense. I guess that did happen before the festival, didn't it? If you haven't seen Index, your reaction is something like, why the fuck is Kuroko in the hospital? And guess what? They never answer that question, because they expect you to already know. Railgun is not supposed to be the first or standalone experience. Accelerator is another great example of this. If you don't know why Accelerator is carrying a crutch, or has headphones, you probably really shouldn't be watching this right now, and should go finish Index 1 instead. This can also be applied to audiences' interpretations of characters. The show itself reinforces how you already are supposed to know Index just by how it's written. When Toma first appears during the Railgun S scene, you're not supposed to wonder what's up with him. You're supposed to already know and why he's confused. It's not framed as some mystery, it's comedic, and they expect you to know the situation. They added all of those references and connections to Index, so it's natural that they expect the viewer to catch them, not have them go over their head or be confused by them. Misaka seems bratty and overconfident, but you find out with Toma that Misaka's got a lot of dramatic stuff going on in her life, and she's under a lot of stress. Then you go into Railgun S and learn about the details. Toma has basically no idea what's going on with most things, and is basically doing things by the seat of his pants. But when you watch Railgun, since it's from Misaka's point of view, he seems way more heroic. By the way, the author agrees with me on that last one. Now, does this mean you should strictly follow the release order of the source material? Well, yes, but Not necessarily. You obviously cannot go wrong with that, and if you ever have any doubt, should default to it in most situations. But seeing as the story and lore of the various series is so much more spread out than most series, you can probably get away with a slightly less rigid watch order. As of writing this, there hasn't been a whole lot adapted compared to the sheer volume of material out there, but as of now, this is the watch order I would recommend. Index 1, Railgun 1. Index 2, Railgun S. Drop at episode 17. Index 3, Railgun T, and Accelerator can go anywhere after Index 2. You see how I'm playing it a little bit more fast and loose with Accelerator? That's partially because of the aforementioned lack of rigidity. As long as you see the events that happen in Index 2, which lead into Accelerator, you should be fine. As for dropping Railgun S at episode 17, the rest of the season is completely anime original, and non-canon to the point of being subtly retconned in Railgun T. You can still watch it, but just keep in mind that doesn't forward the story whatsoever, and it's considered by a lot of fans to be the weakest part of the series. Also, to future-proof this video, if they ever make an adaptation of Railgun's side story, Liberal Arts City, that would go between Railgun S and Railgun T. Now, I've had this conversation enough to know some people are going to come up and recommend you watch Railgun before Index, because of this or that reason. So I'm going to preemptively rebut these posts. Railgun is a spin-off and should be treated as such. The anime production team even made absolutely sure to put a certain magical Index side story in every first episode of any given Railgun season. Now, admittedly, watching Railgun 1 before Index probably isn't that big of a deal, but I highly recommend that you watch at least Index 1 before Railgun S, since what happens in those seasons is directly correlated, and the whole point is you're getting a different perspective on events you already know. Now, I could go into specifics as to why, but I don't want to spoil anything. Just know that if you were to watch Railgun S before Index, a lot of things are going to feel mischaracterized, and you're going to feel like a couple of things are Deus Ex Machinas. It's one of those major events I was talking about. Again, when in doubt, follow the release order of the source material. So yeah, that should just about do it. I hope you enjoy this series as much as I do. Also, the dub is better, fight me.